For together, we'll be diving into the stories and experiences of professionals who are dedicated to serving underserved communities in the real estate industry. Whether you're a real estate professional, a home buyer, or simply interested in the real estate industry, this show is for you. So join us as we dive into the world of real estate with soul. So I have a very special guest for y'all today, man. Introduce yourself.
How you doing? My name is Shad Hammond, team leader Loan Depot, also known best as Shad Knows Loans. How's everybody doing today?
Man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time. Shed is somebody that I do business with. He's excellent at what he does. And every Friday, we bring you guys this real estate with soul so we can tell you guys about what's going on in the local market, the national market, and just overall what's going down with real estate. So, with the interest rates being high or being higher, buyers are trying to find ways to get into these homes. And I wanted to bring Shad on because his mortgage company actually has some new products. They have Access Zero and Access One. And if you guys know me, y'all know that I'm all about trying to get people into their homes with no money down. So, Shad, can you run down to us your new product and what it means for the real estate market just in general?
Okay, so a lot to unpack, and I'm again appreciate you for having me on. I think for us collectively, we're always trying to add value and ensure a seamless process for a lot of our buyers. A lot of the buyers that Khalid and I serve are on separate ends of the spectrum and anywhere in between. And we do know some people are looking for ways to bring less money to the closing table. They're looking for a shot, right? And when we have products like these, we want to make sure we're pushing them to the forefront so that you, the viewer, you are aware whether you're an agent and this is a product that could help one of the people that you represent, or if you are a home buyer watching this, there's an option where a lender may be able to save you some money. And so we have one program that's kind of broken down, and so we have Access One and we have Access Zero, right? And so the one that is going to be the sexiest is Access Zero, because you'll hear the terminology used or the verbiage used where the buyer is not coming up with a down payment, right? And so we know that essentially we're looking at an option where buyers still will have to pay the closing cost, right? So let's always get that clear. There's still third party fees and costs that still need to be paid, and typically paid by the buyer. Now, there's ways to discount those fees, but this is essentially a loan program where a lender is providing anywhere between 3 to 5% or 5% to be able to compensate the buyer when it comes to a down payment. So with our Access Zero, I like it. There's a couple features that I want to point out, and I really really like it because Khalid will tell you there's certain programs in our city, in our region that will help you, but sometimes the guidelines keep a lot of buyers on the sidelines, right? And so with Access Zero and Access One, they're both in-house programs where we don't have to then send the file out to a third party underwriting service. And in terms of speaking of more specifics, we use a lot of PHFA, Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. They have a program here in the Philly and radius where buyers are able to use a program called the KFIT. It's their most frequently used program. That program offers, much like our Access Zero, 5% of the purchase price for down payment assistance. So that's pretty cool because typically, if you're a buyer looking to put the minimum down, you're all in, meaning your down payment and your closing costs. I always tell our buyers can typically cost anywhere between 8 to 10%. So just imagine if you're being awarded 5%. That's obviously almost half, if not more than half. So that's really good because then the buyer, or through a gift or through seller's assist, there's a number of ways now we can then pay the remainder, right? But just imagine if we had an in-house program where we don't have necessarily, again, having to send the program out, the loan itself out to a third party underwriter. The lending restrictions are a lot more tolerable for the buyer, where our Access Zero program, 620 credit score versus, let's say, compared to something local like the KFIT, where it's a 660 credit score, right? So 620 credit score. So think almost in terms of an FHA loan. So essentially, a buyer could be basically staying along the guidelines of an FHA loan. The Pennsylvania Housing Finances Agency, the KFIT, they have certain DTI restrictions, debt to income restrictions. Your lender may say this is your maximum amount if you're not using any grants. But once you are sometimes using grants and down payment assistance programs and bond loans, they may have separate rules, right? They may want to keep the loan less risky and say, well, Khalid and Rashad said you could do 275, but once you're now, including us into the fold, we may like you at 250. Well, our Access Zero program, underwritten more like an FHA loan, will have DTI requirements up to 50%, right? Where again, the KFIT, the only way you get to a 50% is if you're doing a KFIT conventional loan. So again, starting out 620 credit score, not 660. We're doing DTI up to 50%. Another turnaround, another awesome facet is the turnaround time, right? So if a lot of you again are in our region, NJ, HMFA, PFA, Pennsylvania Housing Finance, Delaware, a lot of these programs that are giving us the money, well, guess what? The line's wrapped around the building to try to access these programs. Our turnaround times are going to be a lot quicker because, again, the loan is underwritten in-house. And right now, no mortgage company in the country is really dealing with turnaround times because the volume just isn't there. Every company in the world right now can close a loan in 30 days or less. Well, just imagine if you're getting a grant and being able to underwrite it in-house, you don't have to send it. I'm sorry, using our program Access Zero, you don't have to send it and let the loan sit for another week or two before somebody in some state agency gets to your file. Again, this is underwritten in-house. So it's an in-house program. I got a lot of features and facets. It's a first-time home buyer program, but it doesn't have to be. Repeat buyers can use it as well. You can buy the rate down, where sometimes with NJFMH or a PHFA, there's programs where they assign you the interest rate, or you can pick the interest rate, but all of them a lot higher than where the market value is now. If you want a rate and you really want to stick to it, ask your lender about it, and he can obviously, be able to assign you a rate, whether you want to buy it down or something much lower than what you're seeing with the state agency. So it's a really good program. I think Access Zero is going to change the game for a lot of buyers who want to access down payment assistance but simply can't, due to either credit issues, due to having asset issues, due to having income issues. We'll be able to help more people, and that's what this product is for.
Gotcha. That's a lot of information to unpack. I guess
Wow.
my first question is the income. Most of these programs have income restrictions. So I guess for Access Zero, what's the income restriction?
So if you are, for Access Zero, if you are between 600 and 619, okay, again, you have to be at least 660. I'm not sure if I made that clear. 600.
600.
Just to get it out there, 600 is our minimum score for Access Zero.
Mhm.
600 is our minimum score for Access Zero. So if you're between 600 and 619, your DTI has to be at 45 or lower. Also, heavy piece of the program. If you are between 600 and 619, the most down payment assistance that you can receive would be 3.5%, which is a lot similar to the
FHA.
FHA's down payment, right? 3.5%. So essentially, that's being washed. Okay? It's being washed. Now, if you have 620 and above, you have your pick between 3.5 or 5%. It's either or. You have your pick if you're 620 and above. And your DTI can be up to 50%, which
Okay.
nationwide there's a lot of DPA programs that'll stop you at 45. There are others. Jersey has a couple of different ones where one will stop you at 50, but most of them try to keep you lower than where your lender would say you could shop if you weren't using any grants at all. So 50%, 5% down payment assistance, 620 credit or higher. So if you got 620 credit or higher, you can get up to 5% down payment assistance.
Okay, here's a question.
Okay. Yep.
Um, if you're all right, so this is a FHA product, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if this is a FHA product, and usually you get a 3.5% um, down payment with a FHA product. So if this goes up to 5%, if you get a FHA product where you're putting down 3.5%, what happens to that other 1.5%? Can you use that for something else?
Mm.
Or is it just okay if you can get up to as much as your down payment is?
No, no, good question. So that 5%, if you're doing that basically like you said, an FHA loan, that 5% goes to both down payment and closing costs,
Oh,
right? So
gotcha.
that
Okay.
overage, if there is one,
Hmm.
essentially would go to the entire product, the entire process, right?
Okay.
So that's all in at that 5%. It's not only going to your down payment, but it's also attacking closing costs as well. Really good question. And I'm sure that one will come in quite a bit.
Gotcha. Now you mentioned DTI, but as
Mhm.
far as income, is the income, are there any income restrictions on this property or on
Glad
this
you
grant?
asked. Yep, glad you asked. So that one is cool because we know that in certain counties, and again, this is a nationwide product. Both Khalid and I, we serve that tri-state region here in the Mid-Atlantic area. I'm licensed in 39 states. Loan Depot, the company I work for, is licensed in all 50. So this will help you nationwide, right?
Mm,
And so whether you're doing you're looking at DPA or down payment assistance in Georgia or Florida, you're looking at the Georgia Dream or MMP, which is in Maryland, this could help you if you could not use those, right? A lot of those programs are built to help people of low to moderate income. So there's income limits. A lot of times they're per county. Well, this is a national program at a national lender. There is no income limit. So we don't
no
have to
income
go,
limits.
no income limits. So we don't have to go through a calculator and do the median income and 85. No, this is no income limit.
Wow. Wow. Now that's huge. That's huge because, like you just pointed out, most of these grant programs, they're targeting moderate to low um, class individuals.
Mhm.
But you're saying, okay, so if there's no income restriction, there has to be a purchase price restriction.
Not at all. That's awesome too. So,
No purchase.
basically it's going to go just like the FHA's county loan limits, right?
Mm,
And so, depending on where the county loan limit is for an FHA loan in that area, it's going to be the same thing, So, it is essentially much like an FHA loan, but the difference is there's no income limits. There's also no asset restrictions.
no asset restrictions.
Yeah, so you know how certain grant programs,
Right.
may not want you to have more than 25K in the bank or more than 50K in the bank. And they're
Right.
looking, right?
Right.
They see those 2 months bank statements, they're looking and they're like, whoa, you got money. What are you
Right. Like
bugging us for?
KFIT. Right.
Right?
Like KFIT.
PayFit
KFIT
does that. I think they're at 50K.
50K. Correct.
So, so no one's going to clock your bank account. And if you
Mm,
have money sitting in the bank, but you want to use one of these programs, whether it be Access One, which we haven't talked a lot about, but what that one does is, it's basically the buyers pulling 1% down where Loan Depot is doing an actual grant for the remainder 2% or up to 4K. These
wait. Hold on.
programs, we're not clocking your bank account.
Wait. Hold on. Let's just stay on Access Zero
Yep.
first.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm not going
So, all
there.
right. So with Access Zero, because this is a lot. All right. For Access Zero, there's no income restrictions.
Hmm.
There's no purchase price restrictions.
Yep.
Um, Now, as far as you kind of sped over this a little fast, but is it a first time home buyer program? Or can I have a house in my name or a duplex in my name and then buy another house and use this program?
So first time buyers can use it. Repeat buyers can use it.
What does that mean?
So if I've purchased the house previously,
Hmm.
right? But I don't, I'm looking now to buy a new primary home,
Okay.
I can use it.
A new primary home. Okay.
Yes.
So I can have the home in my name. For example, I have people who house hack. So they
Hmm.
bought. I have one guy now. He's purchased a duplex probably a year or so ago, and now he's looking to buy his dream home. Okay, so if he's looking to buy his dream home, he's still going to keep that property in his name. And now he wants to buy another property, which is his second property. Would he be able to use this?
He would be able to use this. But keep in mind, just like where we kind of go over with our buyers, one FHA loan, right? One FHA loan in your name.
Gotcha.
So as long as he doesn't have an FHA loan currently in his name, he does intend to make this his occupying residence, then we're good to go. You know,
Then,
same rules for an FHA.
then next question is this just single family, or can I get busy on a duplex or a
Could get
triplex?
busy on a duplex. Could get busy on a duplex.
What about a triplex? I'm gonna push the envelope a little bit.
I'm pretty sure that, you know what, I haven't had that question before. I have to take a
Okay.
look.
Okay, but definitely
Not
single
exactly sure
family.
about 3 and 4, but
Okay.
again, it's much like an FHA loan, so it may work. But the thing is, with a 3 and 4, and again, I'll take a look and I'll make sure we put some notes in the chat to make sure. That's a good question. It is a brand new product that came out Monday.
Hmm.
My guess, Khalid, is probably not on the 3 and 4. The reason being, FHA guidelines globally typically ask for the buyer to have reserves for
Okay.
3 and 4
Mm.
properties. So now we're talking about one, using the company's cash flow to help get us to the closing table, but at the same time, that buyer also is going to need to have cash in the bank as well, not to use, but to keep on ice, showing that they have some access to some reserves. Usually, I think 3 to 4 months. So I'm not sure about 3 and 4. I am sure about 1 to 2.
Okay, gotcha. Now, for this type of property, I just had the question in my head and it went that fast. Okay. Um, I can't remember what I had in. Okay, so but that's for access zero. Okay, it's coming back to me. As far as there was a product that I seen from a couple of lenders that was like this, where if you use 3.5%, it was one interest rate. No, if it was three,
No,
no,
you're on to something.
well, if
Keep
it was
going.
three, if it was 3.5%, um, it was a forgivable loan. But if it was 5%, it wasn't a forgivable loan. Is this the same thing with Access Zero? Is it a forgivable loan? Is it a grant, or how does it work in the background?
I'm glad you asked, because I definitely want to make sure we get to that. So the difference, and again, we're specifically talking about Access Zero right now.
Right.
Access One, just to throw it out there, is a grant. Now, when we talk to our buyers, agents and lenders are all guilty of it. Grants really mean that's money you're being given that you are not paying back,
Right.
right? We use that word so much, but a grant is an actual, from an agency, a nonprofit, or, a state fund, a local fund. Someone's giving you money that typically you do not pay back. That's usually what the definition of a grant is.
Right.
So the Access Zero program actually has a second mortgage that is resubordinated, and the money that you were using in this, whether it be that 3.5 or that 5%, is in the form of a second mortgage. All
Second
right.
mortgage. Okay.
Now you hit a couple of things. So real quick, it is priced. This whole program, what I like about it, it is not pre-priced. It's a flexible price, much like an FHA loan, a run-of-the-mill FHA loan. Which is so cool is that it's priced the same way. It just has these cool features. So
Okay.
whether you're getting, the Access Zero program, and you're doing an FHA loan, and then another guy walks in the office, same kind of, financial attributes, they're both getting the same rate. It's not that the guy's got the cool loan is getting this much higher rate because his loan does more stuff, right? It's the same standard pricing for this product versus any other FHA loan that we have, whether you're doing 3.5 or 5 down. So that was a super good call out by you. Here's the thing. So the second mortgage is similar to the KFIT, a 10-year term,
Okay.
right? It's a 10-year term. So buyers have 10 years to pay it back. If they want to pay it back quicker than that, they can. But it's a 10-year term to pay it back. So whatever you borrowed for the 3.5 or the 5%, you now will have a second mortgage. You'll have 10 years to pay that back. So when your payment comes, your monthly bill comes, you're going to get one for your monthly payment for your PITI, but then you're going to get another separate statement for the payback of whatever you borrow throughout the Access Zero process.
Gotcha. So it's not a forgivable loan. For
It's not a
example,
forgivable loan.
okay, because
No,
the
and that's the one cardinal difference kind of between, PIFA's KFIT program. Very
right.
similar, but you do have to pay this one back.
Okay, you do have to pay. Or so for Access Zero and Access One, they're both
So no,
second mortgages. Okay,
no. So like I said, I didn't want to jump back to Access One, but that was the
gotcha.
one thing I did want to step back and say the difference between the two is one is a live grant. You do not have to pay back. One is a second mortgage program.
Okay, so I'm staying on Access Zero just so
Yep.
we can get Ray Harris's question. He's saying condos. You can use this for condos also.
Yes, as long as the condo will accept FHA financing.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, so we
Good
answered that.
question.
Okay, so for the Access Zero, somebody wants to come in and they want to use Access Zero. Access Zero you can use for single families or duplexes. You get 3% to 5% in a second mortgage. So again, in
Mhm.
this particular situation, you have to pay this money back. Um, on a second mortgage, I guess, does the interest rate follow the first mortgage, or what interest rate are we
Good.
using?
Well, this is why this man is a professional because he's
Mm,
asking elite questions. So the interest rate on the second mortgage is going to be whatever interest rate that you acquired for your first loan
okay.
plus two. So if you left out with rates dropped, by the way, almost maybe what, at least 30 bips, more than a quarter, but less than a half in the
Mhm.
last 48 hours. So I do have buyers now getting between 7 and 7.25. Lock your
Mhm.
loans, anybody, if you're watching. But if you left here with a 7% interest rate, right? For your first loan, your Access Zero, your interest rate on the second mortgage would be plus two, would be 9%.
Okay.
Okay, very important. So it's plus two from your first mortgage's interest rate. Now, here's one real quick thing. I have a couple in the pipeline now, right? So I have a buyer buying a $150,000 house that she's interested in. She just put an offer in. She made too much money for the Philly First. Her credit wasn't good enough for the PHFA. So now she's using this program. So see, kind of sometimes we can have ham, no burger, peanut butter, no jelly for some of these programs that we kind of can fit in, but we can't. Or
Right.
maybe we can fit in over here, but we can't. So this program works for her. Now that second mortgage, if anybody is concerned, like, oh man, I got a second payment, Jesus Christ, I can barely pay the first. On that $150, I'm sorry, $150,000 mortgage where she's putting the minimum down, she's getting the full 5%. Her payback on that is $93.
Okay.
All
Yes.
right. So she's looking at like a 13 and some change payment, a $1,300 payment. And then now she's also, when that statement comes in the mail, it'll say like $93, rounded up to $95. So it's an extra 95 bucks over 10 years to pay it. And again, she can pay it quicker if she chooses.
Okay. Because I was thinking, like, okay, with it being a second mortgage, like, of course, most people don't want to take on more debt. So who's going to be the ideal client for this? Because if you have somebody who has a decent credit score but doesn't make a lot of money, there's plenty of grants. There's a plethora of grants out there where you don't have to pay that money back. Um, but really, if you have somebody whose income is up there and they don't qualify for a lot of these grants, but they still need some type of payment assistance, and maybe some people, a person who isn't a first-time home buyer, maybe they have a home and they want to move to another home, they have decent income, there's going to be a plethora of grants that they can't apply for. But with this one, this kind of hits the mark for maybe you're a middle class individual, because a lot of times in this economy you have for all intents and purposes, poor middle class individuals, because they make
Yeah.
enough. They make enough where they can't qualify for nothing, okay? But they don't make enough where they're not living from check to check,
Yep.
but they still want to move. So this seems something that's definitely right for somebody who may not be a first time home buyer, okay? But they still want to move, and
Mhm.
they make a decent salary, or there's two incomes, a husband and wife, so they have two incomes, so they can't
Yep.
qualify
That's
maybe
the one.
for your Philly first. They
Hmm.
may not qualify for your Philly first. um, and maybe they don't have a 660 to use the K-Fit program. So this might be that niche for those individuals. And again, right now I'm talking about access zero.
Yep. Yep. You hit it on the nose. So I always like to talk about real stuff, right? So you hit it right on the nose where I have again a buyer walks in the office. I'm gonna throw us on IG real quick.
Okay.
Um, I had a buyer walk into the office and husband and wife got children
Hmm.
and both are doing fairly well. Combined income over where they're trying to buy, I think might be combined like 90 grand, but they both make about 50 or 60, right? And so on paper, they may not look like people of need,
Right.
right? But they got kids, kids got hobbies. One kid is now in college. Like they're stretched thin, right? They're stretched thin. And so, they got bills. And so a lot of these grant programs, they look at the DTI because they don't want you to go over it. But if they were looking at the DTI before the loan, they see a lot of times the DTI is high. That's your buyer that probably needs this. It's not always about the income that you make. Sometimes it's about the bills that you make, right?
Right.
And if you're stretched thin and you got a lot of bills, like you said, on paper, that family, they don't qualify for anything, don't qualify for the Philly first. And depending on the county or the county loan limits in terms of the income that they'll allow, they won't qualify for that too. So they were stuck. And I'm listening to their story and I'm like, damn, how the hell am I going to help them? And then I'm like, duh, we just got this product like 2 or 3 days ago. Let's
Mm.
try this. And it does work for them because there's no income requirements, and they have very little out of pocket, but they want to change the living situation right now. And they're getting up to 5%. You splash in a little bit of seller's assist, that is allowable. You,
Mm.
you splash in, any gifts from family members or friends, that is allowable. The Urban League, somebody that we use, where the Urban League, they will have some of their own grants and programs, like smaller ones for, low to moderate income or being a black and brown buyer. You can stack those smaller grants on top of this as well. So, there's options. There's options. Programs like this are going to help people.
Now that's another question. Awesome, man. Is this stackable with other grants like the Philly First and KFIT? Because we know that KFIT and Philly Grant, they have to be in second position. All
Hmm.
right. Most of the time, these in-house loans don't care about that, so they are stackable. But in this
Yeah.
case, I mean, how do they feel for the Access Zero?
You can't stack like a big boy, like a Philly First or a a K fit on top of this one because
Okay.
that second mortgage is a hard second. They're not
Okay.
negotiating. They're not trying to fall down to 3 or 4. But again, like I said, if it's a legitimate grant, and
Mm.
going back to using that verbiage, a grant, something that you don't have to pay back. It's like I said, we use that verbiage so recklessly, all of us.
Right.
Um, Urban League has a couple grants,
Right.
where you don't have to pay that money back. It's 1,000 up to, I think their grant is now up to $3,000.
Right.
So
Right.
again, they have money for black and brown buyers. They have money for, low to moderate income. They got money for buying in West Philly,
Right. Right. Right.
and you can stack those on top.
Right. All right. Well, let's fast forward to the Access One. So I think we got a
Mhm.
good grasp of the
Yep,
Access Zero. So let's move on to the Access One.
got it. All right. So Access One, which is cool about that one is more along the lines of like a conventional loan.
Okay.
Okay. And so Access One, what I like about that one is it is a lender contribution of 2%, right? So again, 2%. The LTV typically has to be like the conventional loans when somebody's putting anywhere between 3 to 5% down.
Okay.
So just think about that one, right? So you have conventional loans back in the day. Everybody thought 20% down, right? And obviously,
Right.
over the years that's been shot down all the way down to a minimum of 3%.
Right.
So, when you're using Access One, and anybody jumping on IG Live, what you're seeing is Real Estate Was Sold. You should hop on. Khalid Nathan Aleem has a phenomenal show. Real Estate Was Sold. This is episode 2 for this season. And we're talking about down payment assistance, new products, Loan Depot, Shad Hammond. Access One is what we're talking about now. So again, that's a lender contribution. Us, the lender,
Hmm.
is giving 2% or 4,000, which is ever less, towards a buyer's down payment. Now, again, think conventional loan.
Okay.
So think it can start at 620, but a lot of us lenders know that
Mm.
conventional loans, we ain't really writing them until they're closer to 700,
Right.
right? So that one, less money down, right? Um, that one, higher credit, but a lot of times, again, where are you finding $4,000? And
Mm.
that one is a grant. There's no payback on that.
No payback.
No payback on that. So product guidelines are very similar to a home ready loan.
Okay.
All right, a home ready loan. Okay.
Okay. And then what about income restrictions? And if you're catching this on Facebook or um, YouTube, you definitely can. If you guys have questions, put your comments or questions in the chat. So, but back to this Access One. Okay. What about income restrictions and DTI?
All right. So restrictions in DTI, again, similar to a conventional home ready. So a lot of that would be condo related. Let me tell you again, I did take a couple quick notes. So we can use it on condos. So,
Okay.
we were asked that question before. Can use it on single family. Typically, you couldn't use it on a duplex.
You said
Hey,
can or
hey,
can?
Amanda, cannot.
Cannot. Okay.
Cannot. So think about conventional loans pre-November 18th, because we got to talk about that at some point, right?
Mm.
November 18th with the 5% now being able to buy, multifamily. That's a whole nother call.
Right.
But just think again, typically single family home, that 3 to 5%, 2 to 4 units is not eligible, at least not yet.
Okay.
Condos we can. There's not much in about the income guidelines. We're not going to sweat you too hard on that. We're not going to sweat you too hard on the assets. Does again start at 620, and again it's that $4,000. Now again, if the house, if 2%, because I believe that's what $200,000. You can buy a $500,000 house and still get this $4,000. Again,
Okay.
it's coming directly from Loan Depot, and you do not have to pay it back.
Now, can this be stacked
For this one,
since it's
um,
since it's a
yes,
grant?
yes, yes.
Okay.
So, but it depends on what you're using it for. Like again, this one could not be used with PHFA.
Okay.
This couldn't be used with DSHA, DSHA, which is Delaware States Housing.
Okay.
It couldn't be used with those loans because those loans, oddly enough, are those loans, even though it's FHA or it's conventional, but it's
Okay.
still those loans, and they're going to be servicing those loans.
Okay.
This is much more like a conventional loan, but this can be stacked with other programs. Yo, our folks are just stopping in. What's up, Liz? And Amando, the sales commando, hopping in on IG. Um,
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, no, man, that's good to know. So I guess for the people out there, if you are looking to buy a home, this is why you need a knowledgeable individual because there's so many different programs out there. Some of them can be stacked, some of them can't be stacked. Okay, but everybody has a different situation. So if you are looking to buy a home, definitely jump on mekhalid.com, get with me so we can kind of see what your situation is and we can put you with the best loans because again these loans They're trying to make it more affordable for people to buy homes. Okay. We all want to stay in business. In order to stay in business, you need customers. Okay. And our customers who are buyers, they're taking a hit. They're taking a hit with the economy. They're taking a hit also with these interest rates. So I applaud these lenders for coming up with these creative ways for helping individuals to get into these homes. But I want to transition really fast here and get your view on the ruling that came down from Kansas City. Okay, in Kansas City, and I'm a Broncos fan, so I'm not too fond of Kansas City anyway. But
Mhm.
in any case, where NAR and a couple of other brokerages took a hit. Okay, so
They did.
if you've been living underneath a rock, you had these lawyers who I feel like are ambulance chasers. Okay, and it's going to be more out there where there was a verdict against realtors. And if you don't know what happened, what they said is that the real estate industry is in collusion
Uh,
to to keep um, to to keep the commission high. All right. So what their really beef is, from what I can understand, is that the seller is feeling like they're paying buyers commissions, and they feel like it's inflating prices. Okay, which I think is totally BS. And the reason I feel like it's total BS is if a person understands the transaction starts with the seller and the seller's agent. So the seller partners with the seller agent, the real estate agent, and
mhm.
says, "Hey, I implore your services for a commission of 6%." Okay, just like if you were going to a lawyer, you go to a lawyer, he gives you a service, he says, "Hey, this is my fee." Okay, so when a seller contacts an agent, it says, "Hey, I'm going to use your services, charge me a fee." They charge them a fee of 6%. Then that real estate agent goes and says, "Hey, buyer agent, I'll give you a cut of my commission to bring me a buyer." Because if that doesn't happen, then what happens? That selling agent go get a buyer, and now he just keeps the whole 6%. So what these people came up with is they said, okay, well, no, that's inflating prices. I don't think that's the issue, but let's fast forward that and let's skip my opinion. Okay. So I think this is going to be in litigation for years to come. So there won't be any changes immediately. But let's say for argument's sake, okay, let's say for argument's sake that that can't be done anymore, where there's no more co-op. Okay. One of the ideas that I had was that, let's just say that we have a house for $200,000. If you have a house for $200,000 and I get a 6% commission split, that's $12,000. 6% for me and 6% for the buyer's agent. Well, if that co-op goes out, I'm only going to charge that seller 3%. That's it. So now that buyer who's looking for a house, they're going to have to pay their agent that 3%, which is 6%. The only thing that I could come up with that would make sense is that if we were able to wrap that 3% into the loan
That's that. I
from
mean,
the lender. I don't know what you think about that.
that I'm thinking in my mind, that's the only place where that money can go or can be generated from. Now, we just talked to you people, our friends, for 30 minutes about how to save buyers money. Now, doesn't sound like if real estate goes in this direction, we're going to be saving the buyer a whole lot of money. I think there's a some type of stigma that realtors and people in the real estate industry, they don't do much, right? The
Mhm.
jobs are easy. Anybody could do these jobs. All you do is just show homes all day. Anybody can list a property online. It's much like
One
just
second.
going to eBay and listing a pair of Air Force Ones that you just bought that are custom, right? Anybody can list anything. Anybody can sell anything. And I think what people are discounting is the fact that um, there's a lot of contracts and guidelines, and legal verbiage being used in these transactions that are here to protect everyone involved, the buyer, the seller, the lender, the agents. There's a lot of legal aspects, and buyers and sellers, they have a day job. They have a day job often, or they wouldn't be able to buy a house or maintain a house, right? Buying or selling, right? So leave it to professionals to represent you and use their fiduciary duties to protect you. And just like you wouldn't go into a courtroom without a lawyer unless you just him, right? Maybe you're that guy, but I wouldn't suggest it. You wouldn't go into a real estate transaction unless you just have such a high acumen for real estate and know how to protect yourself without an agent representing you on either side. Again, there's a lot of contractual obligations and verbiage being used, negotiation, heavy, in terms of pricing or repairs, or there's a lot of things that go into this transaction that I think do get discounted from folks who don't do it every day. And so now we're asking people to be represented maybe by one agent representing both,
Mm,
the buyer, the seller. I
mm,
don't know how you do that long term. Yes, it can work.
right.
People do it all the time, but I don't know if that can be the culture. I don't think that can be the norm and expect both parties to feel like they're both being protected, or the person that's working for them has their best interest. But that may be something that ends up being I don't know. I know this is far from over. That's why I keep telling people, don't freak out. This is just one chapter. There are a couple states being licensed everywhere, that are saying January 1st they plan on
Mm.
adopting this.
And
But
it's funny because when I go into the MLS now and I go to do an estimated closing costs on the buyer side, I just did this yesterday. There is a section now for buyer commission fees.
mm,
So there's going to be some changes, man,
it
but
is, it is,
it's a little bit off, man. It's a little
it
bit ways
is.
away, man. But that's why you guys got to get with professionals, people that know what they're doing, not your grandson's uncle's nephew who just got his real estate license last week.
Somebody that bought a house 23 years ago.
Right?
23 years ago. You know where I'm going with that one.
Yes, I know it's
23 years ago.
I know it's cute, but this is the largest financial transaction that you're probably going to make in your life, man. Well, listen, we're almost up as far as time here, man. Tell people where they can reach you if they do want to take advantage of the Access Zero or the Access One.
So again, both really cool, game-changing programs. Let's get some of the atmosphere in quarter 1. Let's get some people some keys. So my name again is Shad Hammond. I am the team leader at Loan Depot. Folks can reach me via phone, mobile. These things still work. 215-847-0685. Shad Hammond, on all social platforms, and for Instagram, Shad Knows Loans. So can't wait to, again, put these programs into the hands of the people that we serve. Whether you work with me or not, they are Loan Depot proprietary products. And let's get some people some keys, man. Let's get some interest going. Let's get the dialogue going, because I do think programs like these can help.
Awesome, man. And this is Khalid Nathan Aleem, the real estate boy. If you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate, I got you. Listen, y'all, home ownership is the foundation to generational wealth. It is the foundation to generational wealth. So if you're on the sideline and you're waiting for prices to come down, or if you're waiting for interest rates to come down,
Or rent.
it's not going to happen anytime soon. So find out your situation, find out what you can afford, find out what's out there for you, and then let us do the rest, man. I will see y'all next time. Again, this is Real Estate with Soul. We do this every Friday at 10 o'clock. I bring y'all the biggest and brightest in the real estate industry to drop some gems on you. Shad definitely did his thing this month or this week, and I will see you guys next week. All right, y'all, take care.
Peace.